Hey everybody, happy Friday and welcome in to Business Salad and happy February.
That is right. It is Friday, which is awesome. So hopefully everyone has lots of fun plans. And how is it February? I don't even know, but we are super happy, everybody, to be getting going with our episode as we've been working on a few episodes now about nonprofits. I'm super excited for us to be talking to our next guest. But we're very excited about the direction that we're going with things right now, everybody. So tune in to what we're about to do. So what we're going to do is we have Amy Bailey, the executive director of the Ventura Family YMCA with us. So first of all, Amy, how are you? Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. We're doing great. We're navigating lots of crazy, uncharted, waters at this point, but we're surviving. So we're doing really good.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I hope that you ladies are having a great week. I'm super excited to get into this with Amy, but before Amy, I deliver a question to you. I want to shoot one to Katie real quick. So Katie, you have some history with Amy, and this is a little bit of a personal connection for you, isn't it? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I first of all, just want to go on the record, all of you YMCA fans out there, I love the YMCA, and I have for 3 different YMCAs, I worked at the Y, and I will say that most recently, it was many years ago, over a decade ago, I was lucky enough to be able to work at the Ventura YMCA with Amy Bailey over here. And so as soon as we started talking about different organizations and nonprofits that were on that national scale, but also had local representation, first thing I thought of, I'm like, we need to get the Y on here. I hope that Amy will come on with us because I'm super excited to talk about that. So yeah, thanks so much again, Amy, for coming on. So
yes. Thank you, Amy. We really appreciate it. And so why don't we kick off by having you tell us a little bit about yourself personally, where you're from, whatever you'd like to tell everybody.
Oh my goodness. Well, I was born and raised on the East Coast, which is why I was interested in where you were from. Born and raised in Maryland. So my whole family is back there, except my mom, who moved out here to kind of help take care of my 2 little ones. But I do have a 3-year-old. I have a 9-month-old. She's almost 10 months old. And so I'm still in the tired stages of mom's trying to navigate the little ones. But it's been so cool because I've been able to see the Y through a different lens because I have children at this point. And so, but again, moved out here probably, my goodness, 25 years ago, somewhere around there. It's been a long time. So I've been out here now longer than I've been on the East Coast. And this is definitely home. And I've navigated through, for-profits, nonprofits, and landed here. And I've been here for about 16 years at this point. And this is my first Y. This is my only Y. So it's been, I've just been here my entire time and absolutely loving it. So it's kind of a little bit about me. I'm sure there's a lot more. If you have my husband on here, he tell you all the nitty gritty, but that's probably my space for today.
Well, I love it because as Katie knows, I just spent some time in Maryland. In the interim between Vegas and West Virginia, I was actually in Gaithersburg. So happy to be in West Virginia now. You're happy to be in California. We love you, Maryland, but
I don't live in snow and they're freezing back there right now. So I don't know how your weather is, Steph, but it's nice. It's 70 degrees out here, so we're enjoying it.
Oh man, listen to that. Not for us. Oh my gosh. Well, I love that. Well, let's talk about the Y. Let's talk about the YMCA first, I think, on sort of a national level. I know that there's a lot of people, people know the song, people know the Y is everywhere, but let's start sort of on that big picture, kind of giving you the floor on some history here. But how long has the YMCA been around, or how the organization start, just to kind of give us a little bit there?
Great. Put me on the spot on that nationally, Katie. Appreciate that.
No, I'll do a Google.
No, it's been around since 1851. And, the Y is not just a national organization, it's an international organization. So for those of you that don't know that, if you are traveling internationally and you're a YMCA member, you can go to any of the YMCAs. So that's kind of cool. But it is a huge organization. It's about 2,700 associations. And it's about 10,000 YMCA branches across the country. So very, very large. The outreach is huge. There's about, I want to say 19,000 staff through the Y of the USA. Our main charter is called Y of the USA. And so it's a huge movement, more than 500,000 volunteers that help us out across the country. We just couldn't do the work alone. If you think about that, 19,000 staff, you've got, 500,000 volunteers. So that's really what drives the YMCA is our volunteers. And it's just a huge movement, and it's cool to be a part of,
Yeah,
So
that's incredible. Talk about a history and just that's amazing. Well, tell us a little bit about maybe the mission of the YMCA and kind of some of the ways that it serves the communities. I know that's a big question, but a little bit about that maybe.
It is a big question. A lot of the YMCA's had changed their mission statements. The basic mission statement was to put Christian principles into practice through programs. Now, that really puts us back to where we began, which was a Bible study group. It was a men's Bible study group is how the YMCA started out, the men's Christian organization. And it was really to keep guys out of trouble. And so, we have women leading YMCA's now. And so the history has really evolved YMCA's to where we are today. So to bring it locally, each YMCA is different. We set out to serve our communities in very different ways. And it really just manifests itself into what the community needs. So, you look into a community and say, where are the voids? We have 3 areas of focus. Youth development is one of them. Healthy living is the other, which a lot of people know us for working out and some of those programs. And then social responsibility, which is more of our outreach efforts. And that comes in many different ways. But again, we look at the community, we kind of survey it and say, out of the areas of focus that we have, how do we need to be delivering? And every why, when you see one why, they'll tell you you've seen one why, because every single YMCA across the nation is different. If you've been able to, like I said, travel and see a YMCA, you're going to see one segment of a YMCA. You could come here to Ventura and see something very different because the population's different here, the needs are different here. So, for our YMCA, we set out to do a couple of things. One, Katie, you used to live here. We're a beachside community. I mean, literally, you can walk to the ocean. And the drowning risk for children is extremely high. So one of the things we set out to do was a 3rd grade Learn to Swim program to make sure that every child who reaches 3rd grade, if they haven't learned how to swim, they learn how to swim for free. And then that way to help kind of combat the drowning statistics. So that's one of the things that we do here. You might not see that in a YMCA, in the Midwest, maybe, where they're not so close to water and things like that. But again, our programs come in so many different ways, but it just gives you a little snippet of how we kind of dig into the community and maybe start to move forward on some program efforts.
Absolutely. Well, and I will say, I love that also the fact that, people could be watching this all over the country with different YMCAs they're connected to. And I think it's so nice to know that every community and every place has sort of their way of helping and doing things. And I think that is a very cool thing. So nice.
Yes.
Love it.
And our volunteers help drive those initiatives. So we have a volunteer board. All YMCAs have volunteer boards. And not to get into too nitty gritty of it, but if you're a part of an association, it means you have a bunch of YMCA branches that are together. And you'll have a board that'll set policies at an association level. And then at the branch level, we have a board of managers, which are a bunch of local individuals who just have the best hearts in the world. And they help to set the direction of these YMCAs. And like I said, it comes into so many different ways, but when it all works together, it's magical. You can come up with some fantastic programs. And, right now we're working on a pediatric cancer program because we see pediatric patients now. We have a Livestrong program for adults, and I'm happy to tell you all about that because it's an amazing program. But now we're seeing kids being diagnosed with cancer. And so one of the things that we're setting out to do is to start to create what that program would look like. And we're doing that here locally at our Y. So
that's amazing.
That's really cool. Do you guys have an anticipated launch date for that program?
We're working with a task force right now. We've got the local hospitals involved. We've got, our own volunteers involved, some of our Livestrong trainers involved. We're hoping somewhere in the fall to be able to start maybe the stepping stones of launching something maybe the beginning of next year. But there's so many things that go into a program like that because you want to make sure your programming's right. What you do for adults, you can't necessarily do for the kiddos. And so you just want to make sure you've got everything dialed in perfectly before you launch something that impactful.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
You honestly, Amy, are shedding a ton of light for me personally on the YMCA organization. I had no idea the incredible network that you guys have, and having spent almost 40 years in Vegas in one location and never visiting a YMCA outside of that area, I had no idea they were different. I had no idea they had regional missions and initiatives, and that's so cool. And I really hope for our viewership that motivates you guys to go out to even your local YMCAs and find out what they're about. It's not just what you see on TV, the overall organization is about, but what's specific to you. That's so cool, Amy. Oh my gosh. So
a little bit bigger than the song, a little bit bigger than people walk into a YMCA and they're like, I can work out here, I can swim here. They just, I don't think, realize it. I didn't realize it either until I started working for the Y, just how deep it goes into the community and impact that each YMCA has. So yeah, if you haven't visited your local Y, please go do so. It's more than just a workout. So
yeah, my entire childhood experience with the YMCA was summer camps. I loved going to the Y summer camps. And then that was where I started tennis, and it launched my high school and national junior tennis career. So
oh wow, that's impressive. We should have you on for a Y promo.
Oh gosh.
That's awesome. I didn't know that, Steph. That's very cool.
Yeah. One another little Stephism. But Amy, I want to know, how did you get involved? What made you decide to start? Is this your first venture into like a nonprofit organization like this? And what made you get started? What's made you stay? You've been there a long time.
I have been here a long time. You know, I be honest with you, I never set out to be a part of a nonprofit. It wasn't. I was in the for-profit world, and I had worked for companies like Lockheed Martin, MGA Entertainment. I worked for some marketing companies down in Los Angeles, and really needed a change of pace because I was driving from Ventura to LA, and the commute, if you've been in LA traffic, was horrific, and I would spend more time in traffic than I would at my own home. So it just got to the place where it was more of a quality of life decision, and looked for something locally, and there was a post for an aquatics director position at a YMCA, and in my head I thought, like, how hard could that be? It can't be that hard, right? I had some experience with lifeguarding in the past and managing a pool, so I was like, it's got to be pretty simple. Little did I know how complex it was to come into a YMCA to run a staff team of about 50 at the time when I started. I was 24 years old, I think, and I was definitely naive to the task at hand, but took it on and ended up, landing that aquatics director position. Really, honestly, still not thinking that I was going to stay in a nonprofit, and really, truly not understanding maybe the depth of a nonprofit and the scope of the work that was done. I mean, I kind of, as a program director, knew a little bit. I knew we had a campaign that kind of funded a lot of these programs, but really didn't understand the impact that we were having. And then as I got to see the programs in action, it just kind of went from there. And I had an amazing executive director at the time named Margot Byrne, who's now our CEO. She's fantastic. And we've been together for 16 years, and she's still leading the charge, but she really helped to guide my perspective on community and outreach and volunteerism, and really helped to grow me into the position that I'm in today, and really along the way of different director positions. So moving from an aquatics director, I think I was in that role for about a year and a half, and then this YMCA was really in trouble at that time. They needed to clean the slate and figure out how it was going to really impact the community. And so as a new staff, I ended up migrating through different departments and really setting up procedures and processes in place through almost every single department in the Y. And by the time I was done with all of that, and our executive director had kind of moved on, I ended up migrating into the executive director role. I remember I was on vacation, and I finally got a vacation to go to Hawaii, and I got a phone call while I was there, and they said, we've taken Margot to the association level, and I knew she wasn't coming back at that point. So it was more of the question of, well, who's going to run the Y? So here I am.
There you are.
Here I am, and it's been I think 8 or 9 years at this point that I've been running as executive director. So
Wow, that's amazing. I love that, Amy. And for people that are maybe watching this and thinking about getting involved in the YMCA, whether that's on a, as volunteers, or you mentioned the board or employment. I remember, and I was still in college when I was working with you guys back then, and I remember really appreciating how much you poured into the staff. I remember, this is going to date things, but like 13 years ago or something, it was, there were programs like Listen First, where you helped us really learn how to be better leaders. And I feel like there's so many great things just for development of people in their involvement with the YMCA for themselves as well. Amy, I think it'd be good for people to hear a little bit about, your current role, because there are obviously, as you mentioned, so many YMCAs. There are people that, just like you, maybe they've been in the corporate world for such a long time. They want that quality of life. They are at that upper C-suite level of experience, and you are in that executive director, sort of overseeing all of the organization there. So tell us, what is your current title, and a little bit about what that position is?
Sure. My current title is executive director, and that really, an executive director role within a YMCA really oversees maybe one initiative or a branch location. And you're really a jack of all trades. I mean, I can tell you that I don't have the same day like at all throughout the week. I could be working on fundraising at one point. We could be working on writing grants. We could be downstairs trying to fix the pump in the pump room of the pool. I mean, when you're in a nonprofit, you're literally doing everything. I could be out networking at an event. I could be, it's everywhere. The main normal kind of set out is to work with our volunteer board of managers and really fundraise for the Y and be the face of the organization. And so that's what I try to do. In addition to that, it's leading we have about 100 staff here at this location. So as you mentioned, Katie, putting in some of those programs or, things in place to help guide those staff for their leadership roles here. A lot of them come in as brand new staff. So it's really my job to help groom and mentor the directors that are here running, as well as, the frontline staff. And so, as an exec, if you're looking at an executive director role, it's to be flexible and versatile and just be ready to do it all, because I can't think of one thing that I haven't done, especially in heels. I remember walking up to the roof in heels, and the guy said, "Are you really going to climb that ladder in those shoes?" And I said, "I do everything else in them. Why wouldn't I climb in heels?"
I love it. I love it so much. What a great way to flex into things. And I think that also, I mean, just in general, and that's probably across the board with all the, YMCAs in that role, where you have to be the kind of person able to do that. And, and you obviously love it. You've been with the Y as long as you have. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, that really is. And I feel like the next question I'm going to throw at you, Amy, might be difficult for you to answer. I'm not too sure, because of all of the roles that you've held there and all of the things that you've done. But if you could pick your favorite story from your years at the YMCA to date, what do you think it would be?
Oh my goodness.
I know.
So we have a program called Open Doors. It's a scholarship program. And we had kind of evolved that into a program called Operation Ventura. And it's an outreach initiative for families or children that are homeless, in transitional living, or in foster care. So when we had just started that program, there was a family that came to us, and a dad. His name was Arnold. And he had 3 girls. He had twins and then an older daughter. And they were homeless. They were essentially living in a trailer in somebody's yard that he had managed to get donated to him through a church. And he came here to the YMCA really looking for some resources for his daughters. And, was just so humble, and was so, to see a single dad functioning in those elements. He was so worried about them, and he wanted to make sure that they were going to be okay. And so we put them into programs for free here at the YMCA, whether it was swimming programs to make sure that the girls knew how to swim, or it was just, a parents' night out or something to give him a breather. And he was just so beyond grateful for everything that the YMCA had done, that he just became one of those staples here that we would see every single day. And so he's one story that I think back as the evolution of programming goes on. And had we not started Operation Ventura and had some of the outreach partners, would we ever have met him? Maybe not. And so, it's programs and people like that kind of keep me going, and it lets me know that we're definitely making an impact in the community we're serving.
That's so cool. It's amazing. And I can't even imagine actually the number of stories that you guys must have similar to that. But I love that that particular one kind of sticks out to you through all the years.
Yeah. Absolutely. Tell you, boy, I must be just emotional because I was like, God, I was like about to cry. Like, I love that.
I was getting a little emotional.
I do. When I feel like, and it's one of those things where there's just so many things that the Y does in that way. And I think that sometimes sitting back, just in general, our viewers, ourselves, everybody, thinking there's so many ways that we can get involved. But a lot of times, Amy, some people just don't know how they can get involved. And I know this is also another one of those kind of big multi-answer questions. But, if you were to kind of throw out different ways that either on a big level or even specifically to the YMCA in Ventura, how can people get involved to support the Y in different ways? What does that look like?
Sure. I mean, like you said, there's so many different ways. If you're looking just to simply come out and volunteer, we are always looking for volunteers. It could be a volunteer in a program. It could be an area of expertise that you just have and you just want to lend some knowledge to that. But we're always looking for volunteers in that realm. If you're looking to get involved maybe on a more task force base, we always have task forces that are working on different initiatives. That's another way that you can volunteer and get involved. On a big scale, if you're really looking to have an impact, you can get involved on the board. And a lot of people start off on a task force just to kind of see how the Y runs and maybe how the leadership is to check it out. And if they feel like they're really jiving with what's going on, then a board position is kind of the main of the volunteer opportunities. And you could sit on a board and really drive and direct, where your YMCA is going in your community. And so, it just depends on the depth of the volunteerism that you're looking for.
Absolutely. Right. I think that's great. So all you out there listening, if you're looking for something to do to get involved, just look them up, walk on in there and say, how can I help? There are ways to do it. So I think that is awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, definitely. And Amy, I'd like to kind of see if I can get you to broaden the scope of that answer just a little bit to maybe outside of the realm of the Y, because that might not be something that's necessarily accessible to some folks that are in different areas. Despite how prolific you guys are, what do you think would be the advice that you would give for folks who are looking to get involved, maybe with nonprofits in general, not necessarily the Y, whether it's at a higher level like you're at or in leadership or just in general to get out there?
I mean, I would say, it's easy enough to look up. Most of us have access, right, to the internet, and it's easy enough to look up nonprofits in your area. I guarantee you every single nonprofit in whatever area that you're in could use some help. And whether it's having a volunteer that comes in or it's fundraising for the organization, which is another big initiative that we have to keep all these programs going. If you're looking to do that kind of work, the resources are there if you Google it. And like I said, I can think of a million, nonprofits, even in our own community. We partner with them too, but every single nonprofit needs help right now. So if you go on the internet and have an area of passion, I would say let that drive you in the decision that you make, right? If you're passionate about what you're getting ready to go and embark and do, that's going to be the set factor of how successful you are in your volunteer efforts. So I reach out to any organization that is a nonprofit because they will gladly, with open arms, take your assistance and your help.
Absolutely. I love that. That's super helpful. And one thing that we always want to make sure we're asking is, what are some of the ways that, whether it's for you, for the Ventura Family YMCA, how can people find you? What social media are you on? What are some of those things? We'll make sure to tag you in everything, but what are some of those things for people to be able to find you guys?
Yeah, our website, you can always go onto our website. It's ciymca.org, or you can find us on Instagram or Facebook. It's Ventura Family YMCA for us. But again, if you just want to, Google YMCA, it's all over the place. YMCA.net will take you nationally, and you can look up all different locations as well. And I would say almost every single YMCA right now is getting ready to launch their campaign. It's their annual campaign. So when you talk about helping out, if you're not able to volunteer and you want to get a good end of the year tax write-off and you want to make a donation, every single YMCA would accept that as well. But that's really what keeps funding all of these programs. A lot of people think if you join a YMCA, that money is going towards the program endeavors that we just talked about, and it's not. It's that money as a member is really just keeping the buildings open for everybody to use. The outreach initiatives that we're talking about are really funded through the annual campaign. And like I said, right now, the whole Y movement is getting ready to launch that initiative. So.
That's And I'm going to take us a little off topic here because I'm not super familiar with that. Can you talk about some of the things that you guys do during that campaign?
Yeah. And this is another way to get involved. So each year around February, we set out to raise, right now, our goal is to raise $220,000 in 1 month. And that is a lot of money. Yeah, I know. It's a lot of money, and it takes a lot of people to do it. So we'll have, by the time we're done recruiting, we get ready to launch. They're actually kicking off tomorrow on a soft launch, but we'll have about 60 to 70 volunteers with us, with all hands on deck, and everybody's got a goal that they're trying to raise. Our board members are all raising about $3,500 a piece. Our other campaign volunteers are raising about $850 a piece. And it's really a grassroots effort where we go out and we ask businesses that we know and friends and family and all, anybody that we have a connection with to help support the cause. And at the end of that campaign, which will be March 2nd, the hope is that we reach our $220,000. And I can tell you for the past decade, we've been able to hit that goal and incrementally increase it each year because the needs keep increasing. Once we think we've reached, okay, we've got it, and we have all the money that we need for this year, it's just never enough. So we are over scholarshiping what we normally fundraise. It takes everything we have. So if anybody in their communities, again, is looking to get out there and to help out, you can campaign for a YMCA too. You can help raise funds. You can donate, become a program volunteer. There's just so many ways.
Wow. So we're looking at you out there in the ether, all you sales execs, advertising execs. You're looking to give back, get involved this month with your local YMCA and help them campaign.
Love it. Absolutely. We'll share all that stuff for you too out there, Amy, when you start posting things for sure. So, well, we really appreciate you kind of coming on here and sharing about the YMCA. I love the Y. I love all that you guys do and the mission. And I just think it's so wonderful for you. And thanks for coming on to our live. I know it's a little bit different, so we appreciate it. So absolutely. So Steph, I'll let you wrap us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us this week, everyone, and especially you, Amy. You are wonderful and superwoman, and congratulations on the new baby and everything that you've got going on in your life. You're a busy woman, but definitely somebody I look up to. So everybody out there, I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you next time.